Warm welcome and back again to the class of biology. In the previous class we started the lesson, the cell, in which we talked about the definition of the cell, that cell is the basic structural and functional unit of life, and in that we talked about in detail what does the word basic unit of life mean, what is the structural unit of life, and what is the functional unit of life. And then in that we talked about the cell theory, which was put forward by Skeldon and Swan, and it was modified by Rudolf Virchow. Right, and then we talked about the various other characteristics of the cell, and we will continue with the cell today also. Right, so cell is the basic structural and functional unit of life, in which we also talked about any living organism is made up of cell, right? Like for example, let's say that a life begins with a cell, right, with a single cell. There are unicellular organisms in which the whole body is just a single cell, and the functions are performed by that single cell, whereas in multicellular organisms the body is made up of more than one cell, and there is division of labor that is found, right? So we had discussed these points while talking about the cell. Then we also discussed that there are certain inclusions, right? There are certain organelles that are present inside the cell which performs its own functions. In turn, it leads to the functioning of the cell, and the sum total of the functioning of a cell leads to the organism being alive, right? We talked about the cells, tissues, organs, organ systems, right? So that's what we discussed was the division of labor. Now it is also said that cell is an open system. What is cell? Cell is an open system. Now what do we mean by this, that cell is an open system? It is an open system because it is one in which it is separated from its surrounding. There is one particular cell, right, with the nucleus in the center, right? Let's say there is this various cell organelles. These we will talk about in detail later. Just a picture: a cell which is separated from its surroundings by a boundary. Now what is the boundary? This limiting membrane is the boundary, right? Now in the previous class we also talked about the cell wall and the presence of a cell membrane. So whatever it is, there is always an outer boundary, whether that boundary is the cell wall or in the case of plant cells, and a cell membrane in the case of animal cells, right? So if you remember what you studied in your previous classes, your lower classes, you must have studied that the cell wall is a freely permeable membrane, whereas the cell membrane is a selectively permeable membrane, right? So whatever it is, the cell is separated. Now this is the surrounding of the cell. So now this cell is separated from its surrounding by the presence of a boundary, right? Now this boundary, it allows the transfer of materials and energy, right? So it allows the transfer of materials and energy across it, right? Now cell is an open system because it receives a number of materials. Transfer, when we say, so it receives a number of materials, right, including energy containing nutrients from outside, right? So the cell receives various materials including the nutrients, energy from outside, so from the surrounding to inside the cell, right? Other than that, it also liberates energy and heat and sends out excretions, right? So it also liberates, gives out energy in the form of heat and various excretions, right? So this is what it liberates. So there is exchange that keeps on taking place. And since this is the exchange that there is an exchange that takes place, so the cell is said to be an open system, right? Limited by the presence of the boundary from its surrounding, transfer of materials takes place, intake of nutrients, energy, etc. from outside, and removing of heat and other excretory materials from inside the cell, right? So cell is an open system, right? So we talked about cell being the basic structural and functional unit of life, and now we know that cell is an open system, right? So the next characteristic feature that we will talk about of a cell is the cell size. Although we already discussed the cell size in the previous classes, that was just a general view, an overview of the cell size. So let's talk about the cell size, right? We already know cells are microscopic, that is what we studied. And then we also talked about the cells. The largest cell is the egg of an ostrich, right? So that is quite visible. So this is what these two are the differences, the difference in the cell size that we talked about. That means there is a great variation in the size of the cell, wide variation in the size, shape and activities of the cell, right? So the activities of the cell also is different from one cell to another cell, or types of the cell, right? So the smallest cell is observed in mycoplasma, right? Mycoplasma has the smallest cell. So smallest cell is of mycoplasma, right? Tiniest, very small cell, 0.1 to 0.5 μm. 0.1 to 0.5 μm, that is the size, very, very small cell. Bacteria is a little bigger, 3 to 5 μm. Then after this comes the bacteria, right? 3 to 5 μm, that is the size, right? In length, viruses of course are very, very small. They do not have a cellular structure as such. We talk about bacteria based on its volume, right? The volume of the bacteria. That is how we, relate that to. Then amongst the plants, okay. Then if we talk about the muscle, right? The muscle cells, the nerve cells, comparatively as compared to other animal cells, are very large, right? A striated muscle cell can be 1 to 40 millimeter long, right? Muscle cell. Remember, striated you already studied in class 10, right? So these are bigger in size, more lengthier in size as compared to the other small animal cells, right? So 1 to 40 mm is the length, right? So that's about the animal cells. Longest cells of the human body, not just the animal cell, we talked about the bacterial cells also, right? So the longest cell in the human body are the nerve cells. Now, these are really long cells in the human body because it can reach a length of around 90 centimeters, right? So in the human body are the nerve cells which can reach a length of 90 centimeters, 90 centimeters, quite lengthy, right? You remember in class 10 you studied the nerve cell, in class 8 you studied the nerve cell, and recently you've given the exam, so I'm sure it is quite fresh in your mind about the nerve cell and how does it work, right? Working of the nerve cells. Now we come to the plants, right? We will talk about specifically the plants. Now you just see the variation in the size of the cells that we see in the plants, right? Plant cells, amongst the plants we can say large cells occur in many algae, right? So algae contains large cells. In Chara, which is again one of them. It is 1 to 10 centimeters in length. And then we come to acetabularia, right? Acetabularia, if we talk about this, like plant cell. Okay. Acetabularia. Right, that's a plant, and here the cell is quite, different. It is well differentiated up to 10 centimeters in length. Let's say 10 centimeters in length, and it is well differentiated. I mean, this is not a flower, but this is a part of the cell which is known as the cap. Now, this part of the cell is known as the cap. You just see how beautifully shaped this cell is, right? Here, and these root-like structures, not actually the root, that is the hold fast, right? So we have the cap of the cell, then the stalk and the hold fast, and here is present the nucleus, right? So this is the stalk, root-like, hold fast, and here this is the nucleus, right? Length would be 10 centimeter, right? And see the beautiful shape of the cell. So how differently shaped. It is differentiated, we can say, into rhizoids or hold fast. As I told you, that stalk and the cap. Now, in cotton fibers, the cells may be 4 centimeters in length, right? Jute fibers around 30 to 90 centimeters in length. So what we get to see here, that the cells are quite large, right? And over a metric in hem, right? And then of course we talked about the largest size of the cell being the eggs of ostrich, right? Human eggs are very, very small. Then we come to the cell shape, right? Cell shape also we discussed in the previous class. It may be disc-like as that of the red blood cells, right? If you look at the red blood cells, they are biconcave, just like the shape of poppins, right? Biconcave shape. So that is one type of the shape of the cell. Then if you look at the white blood cells, they are mostly irregular. They're amoeboid, right? With different, shape, we can say, of the nucleus that is present inside, right? Other than that, cells are polygonal, the oval, right? Cuboid, right? So all that I drew, this could be the shape. Cuboid, this could be the shape. Columnar is this kind of the shape, right? So the different shapes that are found in an animal cell. Also amoeboid, right? So amoeboid is one shape. Which we say are irregular. Then they may be thread-like also, right? So the shapes of the cell is related to the position and function of the cell, right? I'm repeating, the shape of the cell is related to the position where it is found and the function that it has to carry out, right? So that's about the shape of the cell. We come to the next part of the lesson, that is the cell structure. So we discussed the cell is an open system, right? We talked about the cell size today. We talked about the cell shape, right? So cell shape was quite a repetition of what we did in the previous class. And now we come to the next part, that is the cell structure, right? Cell structure and cell types also briefly we will discuss. So if we talk about the cell structure, then a plant cell consists of a cell wall and a protoplast, right? Cell wall, the outermost membrane of the plant cell is the cell wall. If you remember, when we studied in class 10th, when we studied the cheek cells, remember, that is the animal cells, and then when we studied the onion cells, right, and when we drew the diagram, your teacher must have told you that these cells you should very, very clearly show a thicker outer wall, right? Why a thicker outer wall? Because that is the cell wall. That is how it has to be differentiated, right? So that is what you learned, right? And of course, the presence of the nucleus, right? So when we talk about a plant cell, the plant cell is basically divided into the outermost cell wall, which is absent in an animal cell, and inner to the cell wall is the protoplast. Now the cell wall, as I told you, it is absent in the animal cell, and protoplast, the term protoplast, it denotes the whole of the protoplasm. That means what is inside the cell along with the nucleus is the protoplast, right? So it is differentiated. Now this protoplast is differentiated into the plasma membrane. Inner to the cell wall is present a plasma membrane, the cell membrane, in the plant cell as well, right? So the plasma membrane or the cell membrane is a common structure which is found in the plant as well as in the animal cell, right? So one difference, the presence of the cell wall in the plant cell, inner to that is the plasma membrane, right? So the protoplast, it includes the plasma membrane, also known as the plasma lemma, or the cell membrane, right? 2-3 different names, so you must know that, right? So inner to the plasma membrane is the cytoplasm, right? Then the nucleus and the vacuole, right? I've just drawn a rough diagram here. So that is the cytoplasm, and most of the space in a plant cell is occupied by a vacuole, right? So the larger space in a plant cell is occupied by a vacuole, because of which the nucleus is found towards the periphery of the cell, not in the central region of the cell, right? So what is the protoplast? The protoplast is the plasma membrane, cytoplasm, nucleus and the vacuole. So it includes all these things. Now, if we just look at the cytoplasm, that means the part that is inside the plasma membrane, all the contents inside the plasma membrane is the cytoplasm, the liquid, semi-liquid kind of content we can say is the cytoplasm. Now, the cytoplasm is distinguished, right, or differentiated into cytoplasmic matrix, that means the base, right? What is the cytoplasmic matrix? If we look at a cell here, the cytoplasmic matrix is the base content of the cell, right? The base of the cell, whatever liquid is there with other inclusions, nutrients, etc. that is present inside, this part is the cytoplasmic matrix, right? And then there are so many organelles along with the endoplasmic reticulum, right? So that is about the cytoplasm. Inside this, there are many other organelles present. The nucleus is also there. When we use the word nucleus or when we include nucleus, we use the term protoplasm, right? So cytoplasmic matrix is generally in perpetual motion, right? The matrix here that is there is in some kind of a motion, right? So that motion is known as cyclosis. What is cyclosis? The motion of the cytoplasmic matrix is known as cyclosis, right? This is the name of the motion, right? What I am repeating, the cytoplasmic matrix is in a constant state of motion, perpetual motion, and the phenomenon is known as cyclosis. That means that motion is known as cyclosis, right? This is also known as protoplasmic streaming, cyclosis or protoplasmic streaming, right? Now, as I told you, in the cytoplasmic matrix, what is found inside the cytoplasmic, there are large number of cell organelles that are found inside the protoplasmic cytoplasmic matrix. At the first place, we find the nucleus to be present, right? Connected to the nucleus, we find the endoplasmic reticulum. that is there, right? Along with this, along with the endoplasmic reticulum, there are some ribosomes that are attached to the endoplasmic reticulum, right? Then ribosomes may be found all over somewhere, right? Other than that, we study the presence of the mitochondria also inside. So all over, they may be scattered. The mitochondria are there, right? These are the general, we can say, the general organelles that you've been studying all throughout, right? The presence of these organelles are there all throughout. The Golgi body is there, right? So all these organelles. Now, other than that, there are many other cell organelles. There are centrioles in animal cells which are not found in the plant cells. There are lysosomes, spherosomes, peroxisomes, etc. So there are plastids found specifically in the plant cells. So all these cell organelles are embedded in the cytoplasmic matrix, right? Now, other than the cell organelles, there are certain cell inclusions, right? So these all would be there. There is one cell organelles found inside the cytoplasmic matrix. Other than the cell organelles, there are some cell inclusions, right? Cell inclusions also found in the cytoplasmic matrix. Now, what are these cell inclusions? The matrix part, it contains certain starch grains, glycogen granules, some fat droplets, etc. Right? So there are some excretory materials also present. There are some crystalline forms of certain substances present, all embedded in the cytoplasmic matrix. Right? So these are known as cell inclusions. Right? So we talked about the cell organelles. We've discussed the cell inclusions. And then, of course, nucleus is also the one major part of the cytoplasmic matrix. It is surrounded by a double membranous structure. Right? You can see there is a double membrane that is present. Double membranous structure. Double membranes, two membranes. Right? Which forms an envelope, and inside it contains the nucleus. That means the content or the matrix inside the nucleus is known as the nucleoplasm. It may have a nucleolus that is there, right, which includes the DNA, or in the form of a chromatin network, the DNA is present inside the nucleolus, right? So, if we just briefly go through the functions of just a few main parts of the cell wall found only in the plant cell. It gives shape, rigidity and protection to the cell, whereas the plasma membrane, it regulates the entry and exit of certain substances. Like that, let's say that the cell membrane is a selectively permeable membrane. That means it does not allow every substance to enter or leave, right? Every or any, that's selected substances. So it controls that, it regulates that. Then when we come to the cytoplasm, we have the endoplasmic reticulum, which is the cytoskeleton. Yeah, right. So you see it forms channels for exchange of materials also, right? Synthesis of fat takes place on this, right? Proteins, there are ribosomes present, right? So ribosomes, they actually help in the protein synthesis, and since they are present here, so here also the protein synthesis takes place, right? So then there are mitochondria here, the energy currency of the cell. We can say here that the energy is generated here in the cell, right? In the mitochondria, right? Then comes the chloroplast, found only in the plant cell, which helps in photosynthesis, right? Then there are some storage cells also present. Then the Golgi apparatus, it helps in storage, secretion, excretion, etc. Centrioles, found only in the plant cells, right? Help at the time of cell division. Lysosomes, they are hydrolytic, they are digestive enzymes, and they digest all the contents that are not required inside the cell. They're called suicidal bags also, right? So because they themselves degenerate, right? So these are some of the characteristics, some of the parts of the cell, which we will actually do in detail later on in this lesson itself, right? Nucleus. of course, we know is the carrier of hereditary information because it carries the DNA with it, right? So it controls the cell metabolism, all the we can say the metabolic activities or the we can say the reactions, etc., that takes place inside the cell are all controlled by the nucleus, right? So it helps in the synthesis or the formation of DNA, RNA, formation of ribosomes, and also in the control of reproduction. Now, based on the basis, on the basis of the organization of DNA, right? On the basis of the organization of DNA, right? The cells are divided into two types. I'm repeating, on the basis of the organization of DNA. How is the DNA organized inside the cell, right? So one I have drawn over here, and we know that the DNA is inside this, right? One I am drawing where I am showing that the DNA is here located like this, right? On the basis of the organization of DNA, one is packed inside something and one is left loose, right? So based on this, on the basis of the DNA, its organization, the cell is divided into two types, that is the prokaryotic and the eukaryotic cells, right? So the organisms having prokaryotic cells are known as prokaryotes, right? And the ones that have a eukaryotic cell are known as eukaryotes, right? So prokaryotes are nowadays placed in a super kingdom called prokaryota, right? And other organisms having eukaryotic cells are included in the super kingdom eukaryota, right? So prokaryotic cells are characterized by certain characteristics. Now that we discussed the structure of the bacterial cell also in the previous class. So I won't go into too much of detail into explaining the structure of the bacterial cell. Right, the basic thing is we know that the bacterial cell, it has a cell wall, then it has a mucilaginous layer also that is there, then it has a flagella, right, it has spiny also present, and then other features that appear. So the nuclear material, basically the DNA is naked, not packed inside. There is no limiting membrane that is there, right? There is no limiting membrane that is present in the bacterial cell, right? So we say that the DNA lies naked, right? And it is variously coiled. If you see here, the DNA is all coiled over here in the cytoplasm. This is also referred to as the genophore or the nucleoid, right? So in the prokaryotic cells, we do not use the word nucleus, right? Because there's no nuclear membrane present and the DNA is not organized inside a well-defined nuclear membrane, right? So that is the nucleoid here in the prokaryotic cell. It is equivalent to a single naked chromosome and is also called prochromosome, right? Now, many prokaryotes may have additional small circular DNA, right? Additional small circular DNA. Now, these small circular additional DNA, additional means this nucleoid is present. Apart from this nucleoid, there are these circular DNA also present. Now, these circular DNA are known as plasmids, right? So, plasmids, they are, they carry some additional function, right? Like they have specific factors like nitrogen fixation, resistance, they're used in fertility, etc. Right? So we come to the next part, that is the nuclear component. What is the DNA made up of? Nuclear envelope, nucleoplasm, nucleolus and histone proteins, that is the covering of the chromatin, are all absent. There is no nuclear envelope present over here, right? There is no nucleoplasm present over here, right? Other than that, the histone proteins, right? The DNA is associated with histone proteins, which is absent in prokaryotic DNA, right? So that is also absent, that is not found. So a typical nucleus is not found in a prokaryotic cell, right? Then of course the cell wall is present in a bacterial cell, right? Flagella, these are locomotory organs, right? And the flagella that are present in certain bacterial cell, and the bacterial flagella is single stranded as compared to 11 stranded flagella that is found in eukaryotes. Eukaryotes also have flagella, but there's a difference, right? The bacterial flagella is just single stranded, right? Whereas the eukaryotic the eukaryotic cells have 11 stranded flagella, right? We'll go into the detail of flagella just now. These small structures, whip-like, which arise are known as pili and fimbriae. Pili is specifically used for conjugation, whereas fimbriae are used for attachment on certain surfaces, right? So membrane-bound organelles are all absent, right? Now, what is a membrane-bound organelle? That we say a membrane-bound organelle is absent, right? So the prokaryotic cells, they lack organelles like mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, etc., lysosomes, etc. Why? Because they have a limiting membrane. Each of these organelles that are named, they have a limiting membrane apart from the membrane that is present, that is the plasma membrane, right? So a double membranous structure. That is why they are called membrane-bound organelles, whereas the organelles that are present in the bacterial cell, they do not have a limiting membrane as such. That is why they are not membrane-bound organelles, right? Typical vacuoles as such to be found in a prokaryotic cell is doubtful, and instead of these, there are certain gas vacuoles that may be found, right? Ribosomes are found. Ribosomes are one organelle that are found in the eukaryotic cell as well as a prokaryotic cell, but there is a difference in the size of the ribosomes that are found in a prokaryotic cell. So in a prokaryotic cell, 70 S type of ribosomes are found, whereas in a eukaryotic cell, 80 S type of ribosomes are found. Schwedeberg is S, that is the unit, and that determines, the 80 and 70 determines the size of the ribosome, right? So, okay, here in a prokaryotic cell, they have one envelope system, right? What is this one envelope system? Is that in prokaryotic cell, membrane-bound organelles, as I told you, are absent, so that there is a single membrane that surrounds the cell, right? So hence prokaryotes have a single membrane or one membrane envelope, right? Whereas in eukaryotes, as I told you, there are two system that is found. One membrane is the covering membrane, that is the cell membrane that covers the whole cell, and the other membrane is the membrane that covers the organelle, right? So the cell membrane plus one additional membrane that covers the organelle. So that is why they are double membranous, or we say they are membrane bound organelles, right? In prokaryotic cells, just one single membrane is present, right? So that means the organelles that are present, they do not have an additional membrane that present. So they are single membrane, whereas the others in eukaryotes are membrane bound or organelles, right? Cyclosis, as I told you, cytoplasm of prokaryotes. Just now we discussed cyclosis, that is the streaming movement of the cytoplasm. Right. Now this streaming movement of the cytoplasm is just found in the eukaryotic cells, whereas the streaming movement or cyclosis is not found in a prokaryotic cell, right? Sexual reproduction is absent in a prokaryotic cell, and we've already discussed there's no gamete formation that takes place, right? It is unknown, not known up till now, and we know that they reproduce by asexual means, and they reproduce, the reproduction is very, very fast as compared to eukaryotic cell. DNA content as compared to a eukaryotic cell is quite low in a prokaryotic cell, right? So respiratory enzymes, they usually lie in contact with the cell membrane, and that's about a general description. Yes, so we were talking about the membrane-bound organelles, and I told you that there's a single envelope found in a prokaryotic cell, whereas a double layer is found in a eukaryotic cell. One layer is the cell membrane, and the other layer, another membrane, is found outside every cell organelle. So that is why it is called a double membrane or a membrane-bound organelle, right? Now specifically, if we talk about the bacterial cell, right? So that what we discussed just now was about all the prokaryotic cells. Now if we specifically talk about the bacterial cell, we find that most prokaryotic cells, especially the bacterial cells, have a chemically complex cell envelope. Right? What is a cell envelope? The covering outside the cell is chemically complex. Means a lot of chemicals make up the cell envelope. Right? So that is why we say it is chemically complex. Now, this cell envelope consists of tightly bound 3-layered structure. Right? This envelope that we are talking about, which we say is chemically complex, is made up of 3 layers, tightly bound to each other, 3 layers, right? There are 3-layered membrane that are present. The outermost layer is the glycocalyx, right? Followed by the cell wall and then the plasma membrane, right? So let's say outermost, I'll show it with 3 different colors, right? The cell wall and the cell membrane. The innermost layer is the cell membrane, right? So tightly bound 3-layered membrane. Glycocalyx is the outermost. Cell wall is the middle, and then comes the cell membrane, right? This is the 3-layered cell envelope found outside the bacterial cell, right? Now it says here, although each layer of the envelope performs distinct functions, each layer. That means glycocalyx has a specific function, the cell wall has a specific function, and the cell membrane has a specific function, but they act together as a single protective unit. That means they act together. They may have 3 different functions, but all together they act as one single protective unit, right? That means what is the basic function of the cell envelope is to protect the contents of the bacterial cell inside, right? That is the single protective function that it carries. Now bacteria can be classified into different groups on the basis of differences in their cell membrane and the manners in which they respond to the staining procedure, which was developed by Christian Gram. Right, so there are gram-negative bacteria and there are gram-positive bacteria. There was a specific stain which was developed by Christian Gram. The ones who take up that gram stain are known as gram-positive bacteria, and the ones who do not take up or weakly take up the gram stain are known as gram-negative bacteria. Right, now we come to the outermost layer of the envelope. That is the glycocalyx. It differs in composition and thickness among different bacteria. Right. So what we said just now, that the bacteria are classified into different groups on the basis of the cell envelope. Right. On the basis of cell envelope. So what is this cell envelope? What is the basis here? Now the outermost one characteristic could be, or one basis could be, that the glycocalyx, it differs in composition and thickness. So depending on upon that, the bacteria are classified into different groups, right? In some, it could just be a loose sheath. The glycocalyx may not be tightly bound, but a loose sheath, which we call a slime layer, right? Slippery slime layer. While in others, it may be thick, it may be tough, called the capsule, very hard, right? So in some, it may be loose and slimy, called the slime layer. In some, it may be thick and hard, which is known as the capsule. Then the cell wall, of course, determines the shape of the cell and provides a strong structural support to prevent the bacteria from bursting or collapsing, right? So that is how protective the cell wall is. The plasma membrane, as we've already discussed, that is the semi-permeable membrane, right? It interacts with the outside world, and this membrane is similar structurally to the eukaryotes also, right? So in detail we'll talk about the cell membrane when we will start the studying about the various organelles, right? A special membranous structure which is found, right? The plasma membrane, it has an infolding, right? It folds inwards in the bacterial cell, and this infolding of the plasma membrane is known as mesosome, right? Which is, as I told you, it is an extension of the plasma membrane of the cell in bacteria. Now, these extensions may be in the form of vesicles, sac-like structures, tubules, or lamellae, right? So that is how distinctly shaped they may be. Now, what is the function? They help in cell wall formation, they help in DNA replication and distribution of daughter cells. So that is the function of the mesosome. They also help in respiration, secretory processes, to increase the surface area of the plasma membrane and enzymatic content, right? So that is how when you spread out like this, these infoldings, the surface area of the plasma membrane increases, and when the surface area of the plasma membrane increases, there are various other enzymes, etc. that are present, that content also increases. In some prokaryotes like the cyanobacteria, there are other membranous extensions that are found in the cytoplasma, which are known as chromatophores, right? Now these chromatophores, they contain certain pigments, right? We discussed about the flagella. They are bacteria which are motile, and then there are certain bacteria which are non-motile as well, right? So as discussed earlier, a thin whip-like filamentous structure known as flagella is present, which helps in locomotion, and this is an extension from the cell wall called, the flagella, it extends or comes from the cell wall. It originates from the cell wall. Bacteria show a range in the number and arrangement of flagella, but bacterium flagella is actually, it is composed of, as I told you, it is a single stranded structure as compared to 11 strands of the eukaryotic cell flagella, right? So the bacterial flagella, it consists of three parts: the filament, the hook, and the basal body, right? So the basal body would be here, right? That would be the hook part, and this is the filament part, right? So it has the basal body. We can so this part is known as the basal body, and here what originates is the flagella, right? This is the hook region. This is the basal body, which is embedded inside in contact with the cell wall, and here this is the filament part of the flagellum, right? Singular, so it is a flagellum, right? So filament is the longest portion and extends from the cell surface to the outside of the bacterial cell. Besides flagella, as already discussed, is pili present, which helps in conjugation, right? And fimbriae, which helps in attachment, right? Other than that, we talked about 70S type of ribosomes. Being a bacterial cell, being a prokaryotic cell, so 70S types of ribosomes are present inside the bacterial cell, right? And ribosomes, they are the site of protein synthesis. So protein synthesis takes place over here. There are several ribosomes may attach to a single mRNA and form a chain. Now this chain of ribosome is known as polyribosome or polysome, right? So they help in protein synthesis. And then there are certain other inclusions which we've already discussed, like there are some, we talked about glycogen and all these inclusions that are some granules, etc., that are present inside cell, the cytoplasm of a cell. So those are the cell inclusions. they are not bound by any membrane system, and they lie freely in the cytoplasm. They are phosphate granules, glycogen granules, gas vacuoles, etc., that are also present in the bacterial cell. Right, so that's about bacterial cell, and we've discussed the prokaryotic cells also. Right, and in the next class we will talk about the eukaryotic cells, and then we will discuss the differences. Just before we move on to eukaryotic cell, a brief, briefly we would just talk about the differences between a plant cell and an animal cell, since we've already done all this part. So I mean, some characteristics you would be easily able to identify. Let's talk about a plant cell: the presence of a rigid cell wall, right, the outermost membrane, whereas that is absent in an animal cell. Right, animal cell has the outer limiting membrane as the plasma membrane. Plasma membrane is one common membrane that is present in both the cell, the plant cell as well as the animal cell. Right, a plant cell has a definite form, whereas an animal cell does not have. A definite form is less common. Right, they're different shapes, then they're amoeboid also. Right, plant cells are usually larger in size as compared to the animal cells. Right, animal cells, we can say, comparatively smaller as compared to the plant cells. The plant cells, as I told you just now, they are rigid, they cannot change their shape, whereas some animal cells can change their shape. Right, plastids are found in the plant cells, whereas they are absent in the animal cell. Chlorophyll is absent in the animal cell, and they are present in the plant cell. Right, a mature plant cell has a large central vacuole, whereas an animal cell does not have a large central vacuole. Right, so the vacuoles are either not present in the animal cell, and if they are present, they are very negligible in amount. Now, because of the presence of a large central vacuole in a plant cell, what happens? The nucleus is found towards the periphery or towards the side, whereas in an animal cell, the nucleus is generally central in position. Right, the shape of the nucleus also differs in a plant and an animal cell. Right, mitochondria in a plant cell are comparatively fewer, because the plant cell does not, it is not motile. A plant is not motile, so lesser energy is required for that. Right, animals are motile, more energy is required, so the number of mitochondria are also more. Then one organelle called centriole is present in an animal cell, which is found absent in the plant cells. Right, okay. Then Golgi apparatus is known as dictyosomes in plant cell, whereas Golgi apparatus is a Golgi apparatus in an animal cell. Right, then lysosomes are rare, if at all found, whereas lysosomes, they are typically found in the plant cells. Right, okay, that's about the basic differences between a plant cell and an animal cell, and we will start with the differences again in the next class, where we will in detail talk about a eukaryotic cell, and we will start with the cell organelles. Right, so whatever we've done today, please revise, go through your book, just read that nicely and complete your assignments. So that's all about for today. We meet again in the next